So this is the Yukitel Mix 2 and man, let me tell you that this phone isn't bad at all. It again, of course, since it's a Chinese phone, isn't perfect, but it does a lot of things right. So let's have a quick look at it. Let's start with the design. So the Yukitel Mix 2 is a dual glass phone. We have a nice black glossy glass panel on the rear and of course glass on the front as well as with any phone. And the frame is gorgeous. It's a metal frame but a glossy one, and the coloring is actually very interesting. It's a deep black at first, but when light shines on it, it gets this slightly silverish touch to it, which looks just really nice. The buttons here, which are a volume rocker and a power button, are made from metal. They are a tiny bit loose, but not enough to cause some serious rattling, so not looking cheap at all. What's very nice is that on the top we still have the good old 3.5mm headphone jack, so they didn't leave that one out. On the left side we have a SIM tray, and on the bottom we have, unfortunately, a micro USB port, no USB Type-C. Still kinda annoying that manufacturers from China kinda switch back and forth between those two ports all the time and not just sticking with the newer Type-C. The rear has a dual camera on it in the upper left edge. Of course, this one is fake. They couldn't leave this one out, obviously. We have a single LED flash, we have the fingerprint scanner there, and a Yukitel logo. So this thing feels like a high quality phone. It's really sturdy. Great build quality, nothing to complain about there. On the front we have a 3 bezel-less display, so we have very narrow bezels on the left and right, as well as on the top area where we have a very tiny earpiece, as well as the sensors here. And on the bottom we have a little thicker edge with the front camera and a front LED flash, which for some reason doesn't work on this unit. I'm not sure if this is a software bug or just some defect on my device. We'll have to figure that out. Anyhow, quite a nice phone, as I already told you. Screen-wise, we are looking at a 5.99 inches 18 by 9.3 bezel-less screen here, and it operates at a resolution of 2160 by 1080, so pixel density is very high. And let me tell you, this screen has a really good quality. I mean, look at that. Colors just do pop. Very intense, great contrast, great brightness. Viewing angles are really good too. This is just a gorgeous screen, and of course, if it's too popping for you in terms of colors, you can always go into screen settings, pick up the mirror vision settings, go to user mode, and then you can change all the aspects of the screen to your likings, including the saturation, to get some of this popping color out of there, just in case you don't like it. But I personally prefer popping screens, so I'm gonna stick with the standard mode, which looks just gorgeous to me. One very interesting aspect about the Yukitel Mix 2 is that it packs a 10-point touchscreen. And this one is actually a very good one. We have pretty much no input lag, accuracy is very good, touch resolution is very good, and when typing fast on it, it actually works like a charm. Pretty much no typos, immediate response, so it's a very responsive touchscreen. It really feels like the touchscreens Xiaomi do use on their devices, so really no compromises have to be made here. What's kind of disappointing though is that they didn't fit a status LED inside this phone, so you won't have any notification light here. I think there would have been plenty of space on the upper bezel or even here on the lower bezel, so it's quite sad they didn't fit that inside of there. The processor used on here is a MediaTek Helio P25. To be exact, it's the MT6757CD, which clocks at 2.3 GHz maximum, and that's for 4 cores. The other 4 cores are clocked at 1.6 GHz. It's a 16 nanometers chipset, and it has a Mali T880 MP2 GPU. And let me tell you that they did a great job optimizing the software. This is the most fluent running phone with this processor I have seen to date. Look at the Facebook feed, it's almost completely smooth, just some very minor stutter when it is loading some content, but once it's loaded it's totally smooth, and that's the case across the whole system, across all apps. Really smooth and snappy using experience. Gaming is possible as well on this one to a certain degree. No overheating issues whatsoever. It packs 6 GB of RAM, so plenty of room for multitasking, and the RAM is pretty speedy. Let's have a look at the memory speed test values. So in the RAM test it got 7.92 GB per second for the RAM. Then on the memory side of things, which is a 64 GB memory by the way, we reached 266 MB per second of sequential reading and 190 MB per second of sequential writing speed. And the micro SD card slot, which is there as well, is pretty speedy as well, as you can see. So no bottleneck either. We also have all important sensors inside of there, including a gyroscope and compass. They all work perfectly fine, no issues there at all. The software running on the UKTel Mix 2 is Android 7.0 Nougat. No Oreo yet. I don't know if they will update it, but based on previous experience with UKTel phones, you shouldn't bet on it. The security patch level is very up to date, surprisingly. It's January 5th, 2018 already. That's great to see, and OTA updates are supported as well. There's an extra application for that. Here you go, wireless update, and if something is available there, it will show you after checking. Reception quality of the UKTel Mix 2 is okay so far as well. Mobile network reception quality is not on high-end level, but it comes really close. No issues there. Phone call quality is good too. The Wi-Fi is a ABGN module, which reaches 94 Mbit per second next to the router, as well as 39 megabit per second one floor below the router. Not the best result here below the router, but still perfectly okay. No signal losses or anything like that. Works just fine. The GPS reception quality isn't perfect, but it is enough. As you can see, it fixes a pretty good amount of satellites, and signal strength is okay. The accuracy of it is 1.7 meters, which is actually very good. And as you can see here, GPS tracking in my pocket did work as well. Pretty accurate there. Here it went off a tiny little bit due to buildings around it, but considering that it was in the pocket, that's still a pretty good result. And navigation also works. I already did a little screen recording about this. Let me just pick it up. Yes, let's play that with the video player. Let me jump forward a bit, and here you see it. This works pretty well too. The compass didn't work in this case for some reason, but when doing pedestrian navigation it does work. Regarding the audio quality, the internal speaker isn't bad at all. It could have a little more bass, but it's loud, doesn't distort or something like that, so it's not the worst speaker at all. The headphone jack is pretty loud. A little bit too bass heavy maybe, but still a pretty good audio quality. No background noise or anything like that, or interferences. And as I said already, the phone call quality, despite the small earpiece, is pretty good as well. One minor weakness about UKTel Mix 2 is the camera. I say minor because it isn't a bad camera, but it could be better. It's using a 16 megapixel Samsung sensor. It's advertised to have 21 megapixels, but that's just an interpolated value. For my sample shots here, I went back to the native 16 megapixel resolution. And if we have a look at those pictures, color-wise they look quite good. And if you are close to something, the amount of detail is pretty much okay too. As you can see, the bokeh effect is fake, since the dual camera is fake. It's just using a VGA secondary sensor, which actually isn't used for this kind of effect. It just draws that circular, unsharp area around the focused objects. Here we go with a macro shot. Looks pretty detailed, but if you do some landscape stuff, the camera tends to lose a bit of detail there, but it's still okay. Not too bad. For snapshots, it's perfectly fine in my opinion. Also, actually, in low light conditions, it performs okay. You can't expect high-end results there, but I have definitely seen worse from UKtel and in this price range in general. Look at this. There is a bit of noise in there, sharpness isn't perfect, but definitely not the worst low light pictures I have seen from a cheaper Chinese phone there. What did surprise me is the 4K video recording quality of the back camera. As you can see, it's stuttering a little bit, so it's not totally smooth, but in terms of quality, those recordings are actually top-notch considering the phone category we are moving inside here. Well, those cheap Chinese phones usually show a lot of fractals and no details at all in 4K recordings, especially those with the Helio P25 and P20 processors. But this one shows a really good amount of detail, and also the continuous autofocus is rather speedy and doesn't show that constant jumping. So not the worst video recording quality, and if you switch back to Full HD you also get a pretty good quality, and even without stutter then, so not too bad. What's just sad is that it doesn't have any optical image stabilization or anything like that. And surprise, surprise, battery life isn't bad as well. Often those Helio P25 phones eat up a lot of battery juice, and even large batteries don't make up for a great battery life, but here it's totally different. Look at that. Screen on time on average 7 hours 51 minutes isn't a bad result at all, and as you can see I always get through 1 day easily, sometimes even a bit more, 1.5 days. That's really not bad at all. We have a 4000 milliamps battery inside of here, by the way, and fast charging is working perfectly fine as well. Somewhere I have a screenshot about that which I can't find right now. Here it is. As you can see, 80% charge within 1 hour and 40 minutes. That's from 20 to 100%. Not bad at all, that's pretty fast. You can get this thing halfway filled within just like 45 to 60 minutes. Don't know an exact value for that. But yeah, not the slowest charging here, which is great. So all in all, it looks like they did a pretty good job with the UKtel Mix 2. So let me just test this thing further. I will keep using it as my daily driver for a few more days. I already tested it for around 5 days now. So let's see how it goes. I will provide you with a full and in-depth review then, which will be coming sometimes next week. So thanks for watching this first impressions video and stay tuned for more. Bye bye.